Zeitz, if I can ask you, as a representative of the business community and as a business leader, do you believe that big corporations can reduce their reliance on traditional sources of energy?
Well, I absolutely think so, and it's not a question of whether we can, we must, because there's no alternative down the road. If you plan your business out for the long run, you have to plan with renewable energies, and you have to just eliminate the carbon footprint that you generate as a company. Business ultimately has caused a lot of the environmental degradation that we see around the world, so business is there to also fix it.
Do you believe that there need to be more incentives for business to change its behaviour?
I believe the incentive is ultimately the consumer that will look for the brands that are sustainable, and it's our job to convince our consumer that we are not only sustainable, but we can actually communicate sustainability in a desirable way. And I think that's sometimes the difficulty when you talk about biodiversity, carbon offsets and things like that. It's not really something that the consumer can relate to. So you need to transport the message in a desirable manner, just like you have to make your products desirable and have to get people out to buy sports shoes or equipment.
And I want to bring in James Cameron, because you have just recently returned from Brazil, where you were campaigning against the development of a controversial hydroelectrical dam in the Amazon. I mean, this is designed to meet Brazil's growing energy needs. So how do you balance economic growth versus protecting the environment?
The issue is that this dam is being presented to the Brazilian public as if it's going to solve their energy needs, when in fact most of the energy is earmarked to go to aluminum smelters. And as we know, aluminum is a very, very energy intensive industry, and it produces relatively few jobs relative to the number of megawatts consumed. So I would submit to the Brazilian government that they need to abandon the obsolete paradigm of damming their rivers, which, if you think about it, if the rivers are the arteries and the lifeblood of Brazil, then damming them is like intentionally putting blood clots into your arteries, which cause strokes and heart attacks. I would submit that because they're on the equator, they have more solar flux, certainly, than Mr. Zeitz's country, which is actually a leader in solar and other renewables. So if Germany can do it, then certainly Brazil can do it.
Can I ask you, do you think that business will one day produce factories that are powered just by alternative energy?
Absolutely. In fact, we have two factories now that produce for us, one in South Africa and one in India, that is already fully off the grid, using entirely or being powered entirely by renewable energy. So I think that's absolutely possible. And the problem I see is that very often we talk about corporate social responsibility, and that to me is a little bit defensive. I think businesses have to be a bit more offensive and look for the opportunity to actually, create business, create profits in the long run, and invest, be prepared to invest into future businesses.
I just wanted to ask you very quickly, are consumers willing to pay just a little bit extra if they know that a product is made in a cleaner, greener way?
The problem is transparency today. There is no transparency in the market, and a lot of companies and brands are saying we are eco this and eco that, but they don't really openly disclose what they're actually doing and what is actually in the product. Once we've created transparency, I believe that the consumer will be ready, but it will take a little bit of time. We've just had a financial crisis. If I now say, consumer, you should partially pay for the carbon offset we are making, he's going to say no, and rightfully so. That's a process, and I think it comes down to education, consumer education, and that will happen over time.
Jochen, you want your company to be sustainable, you want to go carbon neutral. How do you plan to do that?
Well, first of all, I don't think we can leave it up to governments to fix the problem. I think, yes, we need regulations and rules, but business cannot wait. We have to all be responsible for the footprint we leave behind as businesses, and we have to take care of it in a swift and quick way. I don't think we can wait for governments. We need to do it as businesses, and then we need to go along, and not wait for the perfect solution. It's trial and error. Earth is complex. We will not, hit it the first time, but we have to start somewhere.
James, what do you say to those climate change skeptics?
I think the climate change skeptics they're fearful, they're in denial, or it just doesn't suit their personal agenda. I would, their economic agenda. But I would say to them, most of them, they have children. They have to live on this planet, and they're going to have to be accountable to their children and to future generations. The question that every business leader, every individual, and every leader in government needs to ask themselves is, what kind of ancestor do I want to be?
Well, I would like to thank all of you for taking part in this energy debate. Extremely thought-provoking, and I know that this is really just the beginning. Thanks so much for your company. I'm Anna Corrin. Bye for now.